Hope, do you want to just test the share screen on your end?
Sure, okay.
Okay, let me,
Okay, we can't both share at the same time? Okay.
all right, I'm going to be on a mute, and then once I say time to share, then you can come up. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Sandy. How are you?
Okay. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, this is Chris.
Hello, Glenn.
I'm muted, sorry. How are you?
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sandy Pruitt. We will be starting shortly.
Good afternoon. Could everybody hear me? You could use the chat to say yay or thumbs up, whatever your means will be.
We hear you.
Very good. So, good afternoon, folks. Again, I'm Glenn Moorhead, the Deputy Director of Business Operations for the Office of Central Services in Prince George's County. I would like to welcome you to the Supplier Development and Diversity's 5th webinar that we are hosting today as part of our series with Sandy Pruitt and Jared McLaurin of the People for Change and the PFC Black Chamber. The presentation today is entitled An Overview of Online Meeting Platforms, Zoom, GoToMeetings, and WebEx, which is very appropriate considering how we're meeting today and what has brought us to the point that we're meeting in this fashion. Our guest presenter is Dr. Hope Murphy, who specializes in the development and delivery of in-person and remote training that meets the learning needs of organizational leaders and support staff. She brings more than 15 years of experience in training and developing remote teams, preparing organizations for compliance with accreditation, developing and managing people, as well as helping organizations to pivot when their existing strategy happens to change due to unexpected circumstances. Hope holds an MBA in organizational leadership and development and is a Doctor of Education in staff development and remote learning. In the midst of COVID-19, we know that many small businesses quickly pivot to an alternate medium of communicating, basically virtually. This workshop will highlight the features of 3 online meeting platforms as mentioned above, and help you as small and diverse vendors to determine the best use and benefits. As usual, and part of these series, we have representatives from the Office of Central Services, Ms. Deborah Carter, the Executive Director of the Supply Development and Diversity Division, and Mr. Christopher Kelly, the Outreach Manager of the division. We thank you for attendance this afternoon and hope that you have been enjoying our webinar series thus far. At this point, I will turn the presentation over to Ms. Sandy Pruitt. Sandy?
Glenn, thank you so much for that warm welcome. Again, I'm Sandy Pruitt, the Executive Director of the People for Change Coalition, and also on the board of the PFC Black Chamber. The workshop for today will be hosted by Dr. Hope Murphy, and we hope that you will learn about 3 online meeting platforms that you can incorporate with your business. We also want you to know that there are upcoming workshops, and we'd like you to mark your calendars now for those workshops. There's Crisis Communications this Thursday, July 23rd from 7 to 9. Next Tuesday, July 28th, Shaping Your Brand for the Digital Experience. And on Thursday, July 30th, Understanding the Loan Forgiveness under the Paycheck Protection Program. So these are other workshops we hope that you can participate in. Just a little bit about the presenting organizations. The PFC Black Chamber is a membership organization representing Black businesses whose mission is to strengthen the capacity of those businesses to serve their communities by providing a collective voice, fair access to capital, and leadership support. The People for Change Coalition is a membership organization representing over 300 nonprofits and minority businesses whose mission is to build the capacity of minority businesses and nonprofits by providing assessment, support, and expansion services. We are pleased today to present our presenter, Dr. Hope Murphy. Again, Glenn gave a presentation on her background, and she brings more than 15 years of experience in training and developing remote teams and really preparing organizations on how to communicate effectively. So we're excited to have Dr. Hope Murphy. She's going to share her screen now and start with her presentation. Hope, are you all set?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Sandy. Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be with you this afternoon, and I look forward to sharing with you about the various online meeting platforms that are available during this very significant time in small business history. Our objectives today are to identify ways to communicate remotely, to learn how to host staff and team meetings virtually, and to explore how to incorporate new tools for your business. As we go along today, I want you to keep track of the questions that you have. I'm going to actually ask you some questions, and I want you to consider each one, because at the end of this training, I want you to have some actionable items that you can use for moving forward in your business during this time. So I'm going to start by asking you, what has been your remote communication challenge to this point? And I'm asking you to use the chat feature to answer. What has been your remote communication challenge? In other words, what problems have you been encountering trying to communicate with your team, with your clients, with your customers?
Okay, Hope, I see something in the chat. Someone shared at the beginning of the pandemic, system availability was a problem. And then Hope, also some of the things we saw from a lot of our small businesses were that they were new to online platforms and communicating virtually with their customers and clients. So learning this new technology, I think, was a challenge for a lot of businesses, and it still is, as they adjust to how they not only communicate with their team members and their staff, but also how do they communicate outside of the office or that environment.
Okay, well, everyone's definitely in the right place, because that's the direction of our training today. And I have this slide for you all to see, just to say, welcome to the new way of doing business. Actually, it was a really good idea for businesses to have had some remote systems in place previously, but if you did not, now's a good time to get started and to keep that moving forward from here on out. So let's get into it. There are a number of different ways to communicate online or in the remote environment. I was asked to focus on 3 of them today: Zoom, GoToMeeting, and WebEx. I wanted to put the logos here for you so that whenever you go to their platforms, you can know that you are in the right place. Each of these platforms can also be downloaded to your mobile device. And this really helps with online communication, remote communication, because you can literally be anywhere conducting meetings. Sometimes I'm conducting meetings from my house, I'm conducting meetings from my car, different places. And these different platforms allow you that kind of flexibility to be able to connect with your teams, your customers, and your clients virtually anywhere. The first platform that I want to talk to you about is GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting is a video and audio conferencing, chat, and webinars. The benefits of GoToMeeting are that it's excellent for large groups, one-click meetings, and for collaboration. I also wanted to list some pricing for you with each of these. GoToMeeting has a professional license that you can obtain for $12 a month. It allows for up to 150 participants, and it has a free trial. The first 14 days are free, and no credit card is needed during the free trial process. I've also included the link here in case we decide to go to actually take a look at the platform. One of the things that I'm going to be sharing with you is the way that some other businesses that I've worked with have used these various platforms. So most recently, I've been working with a top sales executive, and they decided to use GoToMeeting. They decided to use GoToMeeting because of the number of individuals that can participate. And they use GoToMeeting to connect with their internal teams for training. They also use GoToMeeting to connect with their clients. And they use the various tools that we are going to discuss a little further along in the webinar.
Hope, this is Sandy. I know you're going to be highlighting the 3 different packages. but one of the participants asked if they are working primarily with customers, what might be the better platform when they're trying to reach customers?
Okay, we are definitely going to get there as we go through the presentation with working with customers. And if I do not address your specific question, just make sure to post in the chat to let me know or follow up with me when this is over, and I'd be more than happy to go over that with you. I do want to say that there really is not a one-size-fits-all platform for anyone to use. It's really going to boil down to what features are important to you, the ones that you need most in order to connect with your customers, in order to connect with your clients, in order to connect with your staff. The next platform I want to cover is Zoom. And many of you have probably heard about Zoom. Zoom is you can conduct online meetings, training, and have video webinars. We're participating in Zoom right now. The benefits of Zoom are that it's a very popular platform. It's well known, it's very easy to use, and it is affordable. They have a pro account for $14.99 a month. You can have up to 100 participants. You have unlimited meeting times. And they also have a basic account also for personal meetings that's free. And I was asked to let you know that for tutorials for any of these platforms, you can go to YouTube, just put in the platform that you want to get more information about, and you can watch a tutorial and it can show you exactly how they function. Now, I do want to say with the free account, the basic, it will kick you out after 40 minutes. So you have to be aware of that. And also, it does not include all of the same features that the paid subscription permits you. Keep in mind that there are licenses attached to each of these platforms. And what a license is, it is permitting a particular individual to have access. So it's not organization-wide, it's attached to a certain individual. So you have to know how many licenses are you getting, or how many people can be attached to a single license, and know that they are tracking. And what they will do is they will send a code that has to be submitted in order for someone to use that particular license. And they will charge you if you have multiple people using one license that's only supposed to be attached to one individual. So keep that in mind. WebEx. WebEx, let me go back for just a minute about Zoom. I personally use Zoom to set up a virtual training room at Catholic Charities in Washington, D.C. They have teams in Virginia, in Maryland, in DC, all over the place. And it took some of them a long time to be able to come to our training room, which was housed in Washington, DC for training. So we set up a remote training room. My team and I set up a remote training room so that their staff, regardless of where they were, could be able to participate, because of course, being a nonprofit, they had counselors who might be out in the field, but so they couldn't get back to training, but they needed to be able to participate in the training to keep their learning plans up to date. So Zoom was a very effective platform for that. We just set up the training room with the cameras, set up the configuration of the training room, and we had participants who wanted to come in person for the training. And we also had remote teams watching at a distance as well. So I really liked Zoom in that regard. Now, one caveat with Zoom is you've probably heard that they've been having some issues with individuals coming into meetings and showing inappropriate pictures. One of the ways around that is by sending out the links just to specific people and not posting your Zoom link, for example, on your website. Some individuals like to put it on their website so that if someone just happens to come during the time that they're conducting a meeting, they can log into the meeting or to make that kind of connection. But that is something for you to pay attention to.
So Hope, what I'm hearing is that people need to keep that link secure in terms of who they really want to invite to that meeting and not to make it so public.
Exactly, exactly. I understand that Zoom has put some things in place to provide protection, but I do know of someone that I was counseling last week who had that in the midst of this session that he was doing with children. So just be aware of that. Just protect your link, and I'm sure that's for the others as well. But there was some national attention there with Zoom. But I personally like Zoom a great deal, and I never had any problems of that sort.
What do you see in some of the government agencies using in terms of platforms? Because even some of the banking industries are saying they're afraid or they're reluctant to go on Zoom because of the security. What other platforms do you see government or maybe banking institutions using?
WebEx seems to be very popular. I'm doing some work with the Small Business Administration, the Veterans Business Outreach Center, and we are using WebEx. And one of the benefits, as listed here with WebEx, is that it's really big on privacy. So if you're doing anything with the military, you know that they want everything to be very private. So my recommendation there definitely would be WebEx. It is a video conferencing, online meetings, screen share, and webinars. So it covers the spectrum of services. You have unlimited video meetings, you have group messaging, and the price point is pretty good. It's $17.95 for a Plus account. You're allowed to have others to schedule meetings on behalf of the host, which is a really nice feature to have. And you can have a 30-day free trial of WebEx Teams. So this is one of the questions that I set up at the top that I was going to be asking a number of questions. And it is, who is it you most need to reach? Your team, your clients, your customers. You may feel like you need to reach at least two of these, but for this training, I really want you to focus in on, again, that greatest need right now. Your team, your clients, or your customers. Who is it you most need to reach? And you can answer in the chat.
Okay, I'm seeing a combination of team and clients, customers and prospects. How can you use, I guess, some of these platforms to reach new customers or new potential clients?
Okay, that's a very good question. And it's a question actually that I'm going to pose to the participants as a whole, because I want them to think about the ways that if they haven't already, the customers that they don't currently have, the clients that they don't currently have, how were they getting them before the pandemic? And how do they think that they can reach them now? So I'm going to turn that question back to the group because I want to know how you're thinking. So it's two separate questions. One, how were you reaching them before the pandemic? And the second one is, what are you considering now as your means of reaching new customers?
Okay, Hope, I'm seeing a lot of in-person, office visits face-to-face prior to the pandemic. And now post-pandemic, people are now having to do virtual meetings, low touch.
Okay.
Also, people relied on word of mouth and referrals before. But in terms of communication, some people said face-to-face. They were going face-to-face, door-to-door, in-person, office visits. People were coming directly to their facility. And now they're having to learn and be creative about how they communicate during the pandemic.
Okay, great. Thank you all for your responses, and thank you for that, Sandy. Okay, so I can see a lot of you were strictly not, it doesn't sound like you were using social media, for example. So my recommendation would be for the clients that you currently have, hopefully you collected some information on your clients. For example, email addresses, telephone numbers, so that you could have a way to communicate with them. Because as you know, it's important not just to have that initial contact with them, but to maintain periodic contact with them. They are a very good resource for making recommendations for future business. And it's also a good way to, I don't like to use the word solicit, what's another good word? To reach out to them for other services, letting them know other services that they might be interested in based on what they purchased from you previously. So going forward and attracting new customers, you want to reach out to your previous customers, let them know what you are currently doing, and also ask them to make recommendations and make it worth their while to be able to do that for you in terms of giving them a reduction in a service that you offer, for example. You also want to use social media platforms to your benefit. I'm sure all of us have been kind of inundated to the point of fatigue of individuals on Facebook advertising services that they have. So what you have to do is pay attention to the services that you see, the approaches that you see that you do not prefer, and catalog why you don't prefer them. And then look for ways to streamline the message that you are presenting and to use those moments on Facebook to capture and engage your clients. And the name of the game is to be able to entertain. So I'm going to, as I go through the presentation, I'm going to speak more specifically to this particular question.
So Hope, what I'm hearing from you is it's important to have systems in place to actually collect contact and email information so that you can reach out to your clients. I remember there's a business in Prince George's County, it's a restaurant, who stated they were having problems getting customers or sending specials and advertisements out to their clients. So I visited that restaurant 2 or 3 times. And what I saw was they did not collect emails. So the restaurant was packed. There were plenty of people there, but while people were waiting to be served, there could have been, we told them there could have been an email sign up. They could have collected emails from all of those customers that had come into that restaurant, put them in the database. They could have got their birth date, maybe sent out specials.
Exactly.
So what I'm hearing is that you're saying businesses need to have systems in place. So they're collecting that information because now we're in the pandemic, and they don't have all those emails. They almost have to start again collecting that because they have to contact them virtually now.
Right, right. And this is where the social media platforms can be helpful, but make sure that going forward that you do collect that kind of information. Something else you can do so that it is not a hopeless situation, obviously, you can purchase mailing lists. When you know exactly what your customer looks like, then you can purchase mailing lists. And when I say what they look like, what is their gender? What is their ethnicity? What is their income? where are they geographically? You can collect, knowing what your customers are like. You should have a description so that even if you pass your customer on the street, you know this is the person that would be my customer or that would be my client. Because it costs money. Every single lead that you have, every single customer, every single client that you have, there's an associated cost. So keep that in mind. You don't want someone to walk through the door of your business whenever people are doing that again, and you don't know how they came to walk through your door. That's one thing that you need to make sure that you know. How did they come to find you in the first place? And you want to know how to keep up with them. So you have to be able to track your clients. So I already asked this question, how are you reaching them now? And I went over some of these ways in terms of, it is not difficult to set up something on Facebook. You can go even live on Facebook and reach out to your clients. Facebook has become very well known for establishing small businesses, helping small businesses to get going and to reach their customers and to set up virtual storefronts even. So now we're moving to our next objective, and keep in mind some of these items that I have covered in a very overview kind of way. We're going to give you an opportunity, and I'm going to do more of a deep dive into some of your very specific questions, because I want you to walk away knowing this is what I need to do moving forward. So how to effectively host a virtual meeting. The first step is to plan, and there's a lot involved in the planning process, and we're going to go through the steps of that, what that looks like to actually plan. Then you're going to deliver, and this is where you're going to use the various one of the various platforms that we have covered, or a different platform that we have not covered. And then you're going to evaluate at the end. You don't want your customers or clients to get to the end of your delivery and you don't know how effective you've been. And you want to make sure to know, what did they like? What could you have done better? And you also want to give them an incentive to immediately respond after you have finished. And again, that can come in terms of giving them a percentage off, giving the first 10 people who contact you a free gift card. Just be creative. Think about what you can do, what you can sustain, but give them something to keep them engaged and to get them to make a decision for your particular service. So, how to effectively host a virtual meeting? The first step is planning. Who is your audience? Now, you can be hosting a staff meeting, a team meeting, a meeting with clients, or a meeting with customers. All of the meetings are not conducted in the same way, obviously. And you have to know, for example, what is the age range of your target audience? Because how you approach them will be very different. And you need to be aware of what's going on in the life of your client at this particular of the person that you're meeting with at this particular time. When people are at home, you're competing with the dog barking, the baby crying, someone on their phone doing other things while they're listening to you, someone trying to wash clothes or make dinner simultaneously. There's so many things competing for people's attention. So you have to think about what's going on with your audience. And you have to think about what kind of meeting you are going to have. Part of the planning process is setting objectives, just like we did at the beginning of this session. What is it that you want to accomplish during this particular meeting? And how are you going to accomplish it? And you should have 3 objectives. Don't have a lot of objectives. You'll just get lost in that process. And set the tone Right now, when people are having meetings, the meetings are very informal. Everyone wants to see everyone. Everyone wants to share about what's going on in their lives right now. So it's a very good idea to let everyone see each other, let everyone's video be turned on so that they can see each other and they can talk. Hi, how are you doing? Some teams are even having socials, which I find very interesting, where they're teaching their teams to do different things remotely, like make ice cream or make cheese, something like that. But you want everyone to enjoy the experience. And I want you to hear me when I say enjoy the experience. Entertaining people is very key to keeping their attention. So as the person who's hosting, you're going to set that tone. You're going to let them know we're going to have a very formal meeting or we're going to have an informal meeting. And you have to let them know what that means exactly. Does informal mean they can wear their pajamas when they're on camera? Or does informal mean we're just going to have some time to have some dialogue with each other that doesn't have anything to do with work? Maybe it's what they did over the weekend. You're going to state your expectations in terms of if you're having a staff meeting, what do I expect the participants to do? Do I expect them to come prepared with what they've been working on individually or with their team to give us updates? Whatever it is that you expect for them to bring to that meeting, you have to make sure that you let them know in advance, this is what your expectation is. If you're stating expectations for clients, you need to let clients know how they can communicate with you. Can they enter questions in the Q&A section? Should they post their questions in the chat section? Will you be conducting polling so that you can find out where everybody is on a particular subject? So just state your expectations. Let them know exactly how long the session is going to be. And again, know your audience, again, here is very important so that you can know how long you can reasonably expect to have anyone's attention. I would say no more than 45 minutes for your clients will be very significant. Let participants participate. Let them ask questions. Let them share ideas. And you also ask them questions and share ideas. This makes sure that they are engaged and that they don't just have the screen open and they're off doing something else. We've all done it. Some of you shouldn't be doing it right now. Pay attention. Keep it simple. Keep your slides very simple. Keep your presentation very simple and easy to follow. Individuals have been so much looking for individuals to connect with. That's why so many of them are over on Facebook. And some of them are experiencing a degree of fatigue. You just want to keep what you're doing very simple. You have so many tools that you can use in the online environment. Really just choose maybe one or two that you're going to use in a presentation to make it easier to follow. And remember, everyone is not tech savvy, so you don't want to have too many bells and whistles, too many hoops for them to jump through. And again,
Sandy, you talked a little bit about the audience, knowing your audience and your participants and your clients. What tools have you seen used to collect email addresses and information on your current customers and potential clients or customers? What tools have you seen people use to collect that information to build their database of those customers?
Well, some that we've all seen. When you go into a restaurant, for example, they will give you a card and they will ask you, what did you think about your experience? And they will collect information from you, your date of birth, so that they can remember you on your birthday. They ask you about who else is in your home so that they can remember their birthdays as well. They might put you in for a drawing for a trip. I don't know if very many are promising people trips anymore, but those are ways that people are collecting information. In retail stores, for example, they have so much is attached to your receipt, and they have you to sign up so that you can get incredible discounts on services. And that's how they get your email information. And also they buy it. Whether we know it a lot or not, a lot of our information is sold without our permission. And that's how you can all of a sudden hear from companies that you didn't do business with, but that provide similar services. So again, if you did not collect that information before the pandemic, do not despair. You can always buy. You can always purchase email lists, and just do a Google search. I want to buy. I want to buy an email list, and look to see what comes up. Now, make sure I always check everything out to make sure that it is a legitimate source. So make sure that you check it out and make sure of that. And know that, for example, some governmental agencies keep track of this information, and you can obtain lists from them as well. Again, it's for a fee.
So Hope, you mentioned earlier, I guess, hosting a social or special event or something online to maybe attract new people. Might that be a way to collect some new emails and interest in your business?
Absolutely, because keep in mind, the way that your customers and clients are notified that you are having something virtually is you're sending them an email. And in that email is all of the information that they need in order to be able to connect with you. So you really need to have that email address. So the socials, predominantly, I have seen them in terms of existing teams, not so much with customers or clients, but with existing teams, so that they can, just have some downtime with the people that they work with and that they are accustomed to socializing with. So I wanted to give you a definition for the difference between a customer and a client. And I personally think that there are some points of intersection between the two, but I wanted to give you these definitions. A customer is someone who purchases your services from you. And a client is someone who seeks and uses your professional advice. So in the sales scenario, the sales rep that I worked with considers the people that he works with as clients, because they are getting professional advice from him about the services that his company offers. So he takes them through that whole process. When I think of customers, I think of as people going into to purchase clothing, or to purchase tires, or to purchase cars. These are the people that I consider customers. For nonprofits, sometimes they call their customers or clients consumers, because they're consumers of certain services. So I wanted to make that distinction for you so that you can know, do I have a customer or do I have a client? Because the relationship is not exactly the same. Clients, you have a more direct contact with your clients. You may reach out to them periodically to check on them, to find out how services are going for them, to find out if there's anything else that they need. You are available to them to help them to understand how to use a particular resource that your company provides for them. Customers, you contact them. Did you like the particular dress that you bought? Did you like the particular pair of slacks that you bought? Could you please give us a rating of that particular item? So that's what the difference is. And each of you should know exactly how much it costs you to develop a client and to develop a customer. And when you have those numbers in your mind, then you understand how important it is to keep track of them and to hold on to them. So how do you know how much a client is worth? What do you have to do to get that client? Helps you to arrive at that number. Are you advertising in the newspaper? How much does that cost if anyone's doing that anymore? If you're on social media, how much is that costing you to develop the content that you're putting out, to develop them? How much does it cost if you have to get email addresses and email lists from someone? These are the ways that you identify exactly what your cost is for that particular customer or client.
Now, Hope, can a business have a customer and a client?
Yes. And I said there is a point of intersection. Really, it has to do with the degree of relationship. Usually with a client, there's a deeper depth of relationship there, because unlike going into a store and purchasing something, the sales associate may develop a relationship with clients as they're coming into the store and say, you know, I've noticed you coming into the store a lot. Let me give you my card, and you can give me a call if there's anything in particular that you want. Or they could say to you, give me your information, give me your telephone number, your email address, and I will let you know when there's going to be a sale on this particular product that you purchased today. So so in that instance, the customer becomes a client because they develop a relationship in which someone is offering them professional advice. So that's where the customer and client can converge. Does that make sense?
Yes. So in terms of the online meeting platforms, if you are, I guess, a hair salon, or if you sold dresses versus if you sold professional services, how would you use some of these platforms differently?
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. Obviously, I have a hairstylist, and one of the recommendations for hairstylists is this is an opportunity to do some training with your clients to let them know exactly what they can be doing right now virtually, and they can do this with video. So let their clients know, for example, safe ways that they can care for their hair at home, safe ways that they can color their hair at home if anyone's doing that, ways that they can condition their hair at home, and they can use videos to connect with their clients, with their customers, to let them know. They can do mini tutorials to let them know what they can be doing right now. How can you buy that much needed dress that you need from someone who is not a big box store right now, directing them to your website using video. And it can be a DIY, do it yourself video. Just make sure that it's clean, it has a very specific message, and it's short. And I have seen small business owners using those very, very effectively, and I highly, highly recommend them. Because even in the remote environment, people are going to be looking for you at times that you aren't going to be available. So you can put a video on your website, and you can become kind of the specialist in something with information, and have people coming over to look at your website. Because what's huge right now, people want to know what to do about their hair. People want to know how to teach their children, and people want to know, how do I pivot during this time? Those are probably the three top areas of greatest concern.
So can people put some of those, utilize some of those training videos on a platform like Zoom, or should they host a training utilizing Zoom?
I think that people really right now like to do things in real time. They're at home, they're isolated with nothing to do. So it's a really good idea to host a live session, but keep in mind, I believe you're recording this session right now, that you can record the sessions for individuals to watch later at a time that can be more convenient to them to be able to participate. And that's something that you can put on your website. But in terms of getting people's interest in a particular item that you are trying to get before them, those should be very short. Keep in mind the difference between training, 45 minutes, and just a brief infomercial, 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. That's the difference, because people aren't going to sit for 45 minutes to learn more about your product, but they are going to sit for 45 minutes to be trained in something specific. So we've touched on some of this previously, but I'll go back over some of it again. How to effectively reach customers remotely. The first thing that you're going to need to do is gather materials that are impactful, engaging, and interesting. So what kind of materials am I talking about? You might have some video clips. You might have some photos that you can use in a short video clip that you create. You can think about, what is it that I would want to know if I wanted to do business with myself? What would I want to know? I would want to know how they are going to be able to get their particular product to me. If someone is a counselor, I would want to know, how will our counseling sessions continue? I will want to know what their hours of operation are. So you want to make sure that information like that is on your website. And again, you want to pay attention to the message that you are conveying. I want to go down to the very bottom. That one actually should have been more up towards the top, because it has to do with the message that you are conveying. You want customers to know who you are as a business. This has to do with branding. I'm not sure if you've had your branding session yet, but this is very important. They want to know who you are, why they should shop with you or do business with you compared to anyone else. What's in it for the customer? I was very surprised by this particular statement, but it's very true. Customers want to know, what am I going to get out of shopping with you as opposed to shopping with anyone else? And how are they going to get it? How are you going to deliver your product or service to them? It's so wonderful now because there's so many online ways to do, the word escapes me, so that your customer can actually get your product. And they can go online, they can choose the size and everything that they want, and it can just be delivered right to their doorstep. And it's all very much automated, and it makes the whole process so much more seamless. But here I want you to focus in on, what is your message? Your message has to distinguish and differentiate you from everybody else. So as you're thinking about that message, as you're preparing your videos, for example, think about this. People want to know a little bit about you. They don't want to hear about you for 3 minutes, but 30 seconds, this is what I'm about, this is why I'm doing this, in a meaningful way to people will go a long way than just giving them a direct sales pitch. Presentation. Think about do-it-yourself videos. I mentioned that. If you're not familiar with, if you want to use a more professionally designed video, there is a site called Animoto, and they help you to create videos. They have stock images that you can use. They have different fonts that you can use to make your presentations look very, very appealing. And I would really suggest going to their website to see some of the presentations that other individuals have done. It's just animoto.com where you would go.
So I'd like
And
to ask another question about videos as well.
sure.
Vimeo versus YouTube. Have you seen different businesses use Vimeo and use YouTube?
Yes, yes, I have. Um, you can upload your link for YouTube to your website as well. Um, the reason that I prefer Animoto is because it gives you the resources to be able to make it look like a professional video, even though it's do it yourself. They walk you through different steps. With the YouTube videos, just make sure that you know what you're doing so that you know whether it's public or private, to make sure that your customers can see it. Because sometimes with YouTube, you can think you're broadcasting, you can think that everyone can see it, but they can't because it's been made private when you want it to be made public. So when you go to look at it, you can see it, but your customer cannot. So make sure that someone else looks at what you put out there and make sure that they can see it as well. But yes, YouTube can be a very good way to do your presentations. But again, I just like to know that I have different stock images available to me and different things to make it look as clean and as professional as I possibly can. Also, look at what your competitors are doing. Go to their websites, see exactly what they're doing. If you know who the CEOs are of your competitors' companies, go to their LinkedIn accounts, read about them, find out about them, and find out what they are saying in the media about them as well. But look at their websites and see how are they appealing to customers. You don't have to duplicate exactly what they have done, but it's a very good place to get some ideas. Tell a story in 2 minutes or less and make it visually appealing. This is what I'm talking about with the message that you want to get across and with working with video like Animoto. You can also do video just from your own, using your own cell phone, particularly if you have an iPhone. You will find there's a video maker, different things that you can use right from your own cell phone. Remote client sales pitch. In order to engage your clients remotely, you need to know what is important to the client. Do your homework, look at their website, read their LinkedIn profile, find them on Facebook. This will help you in terms of grouping clients with similar priorities. You can host a client meeting with more than one client present. You need to make sure that you know what the other individuals can see about that person and make sure that you keep it as private as possible so that you are not giving your leads away to other individuals. But it is a good way to group clients with similar priorities, with similar interests, and to hold a sales pitch call with them. I would not call it a sales pitch call. You might want to call it an information session. And that's when you have an opportunity to go over with them what your particular company has to offer them. Live streaming a session can be absolutely great, but remember with clients, particularly with your larger clients, they might not have the time to stay with you for 45 minutes. So make sure that you do a recording so that they can go back to it at a different time, and make sure that you follow up with them afterwards to find out how it was, were their questions answered, what other questions could you answer for them. Make sure to use a combination of tools to keep them engaged. You're probably going to hear me say that another, 3 times during this training. Engagement is absolutely huge. And I'm talking far more during this session than I ever do during any training, because I would have hit you with probably 5 to 6 polls by now. I really like polls whenever I'm training. This is a continuation of the remote client sales pitch. Polling, which I just mentioned, you will ask a question. What is your greatest challenge right now? And you will give them options. Working from home with family distractions, getting my business on track whenever my customers can't see me in person. You list 3 to 4 options, and there are radio buttons next to each one. They select one of those. And the reason that I like polling, and your audience will like polling, is because after everyone answers, everyone gets to see what everyone, not what everyone, but how the group predominantly responded. So what was the highest response rate? What was the lowest? What was in between? And individuals just like to see how are they thinking based on how everybody else is thinking. So I like polling, and it's also a really good way for you to collect data. It lets you know, okay, this is what my customers or clients are focusing in on right now. So maybe I need to start providing this additional service or this new service to them.
Hope, on the polling in terms
Sure.
of Zoom, WebEx, and GoToMeeting, which is best for polling? Do you find that which one's easier to use or best for polling?
Zoom. Zoom is.
Okay.
With your clients, it's a good idea to take them to your website and to show them what is important to your company. We live in a very values-based society, and I'm definitely an advocate of that. But people want to know, what is it that your company values? What is it that your company is doing for the community? They want to know that they're doing something for someone greater than your business and greater than themselves. Explain the way that other clients are using your service to grow their business, help their family, etc. And this is huge. I'm working with a nonprofit actually that is in Africa, and they have a school, and they want teachers to come from the United States to Africa to teach their students. And this is something that they were doing previously, and they were hoping to continue, but then it was March, and they still wanted teachers to come. And I said, you're not going to get teachers to come during a pandemic. You're going to need to switch to a remote platform in order to accomplish the same thing. So we're working with them in order to do that. But also, one of the things is the way that they were reaching out to people to get support was to tell them that, you know, teachers were having a hard time paying for their homes. They were having a hard time paying for their cell phones. They were concerned about getting paid. And I said, well, you know, everyone globally is having that same issue right now. So the question in everyone's mind is going to be, why should I send money that I need for my family, because I'm not sure about my job, to someone else? So they have to rethink the way that they're going to present this to people so that they can still want to send funds to them to keep them moving forward. So we've strategized with them about that as well. But you need to know, how are your customers, how are your clients using your services now? Because chances are it may not be the same as it was before the pandemic. And that will be very important, because you can set up all the remote meetings that you want to set up. But if you haven't figured out how they need to use your product differently, or how to communicate to them how to use your product differently, you're doing yourself and them a disservice. Back to video. Show a relevant, impactful video. People remember video and images more than text. Don't keep them longer than 35 to 45 minutes. Remember that you are competing with household distractions. Give them a reason to stay to the end. Now, some of you are hosting remote team meetings. When I say a remote team meeting, I'm specifically talking about individuals that you are working with directly, your partners, your team of salespeople, whoever it is that's working under your organization, the people that you are paying to work with you. The first thing that you need to do is to make contact with your team, introducing your new way of connecting virtually. This will be very important for them to know what your plan is going forward. Explain the access process. For example, they click the link in their email. This was very important because everyone is not up to speed or up to date in this particular area. So let them know they just have to click the link. If they're joining by phone, there's also a link for them to connect by their mobile device. All of the instructions are already written out for you by whichever platform you choose to use. All you have to do is send out the invitations to your staff, to your clients, to your customers. They can choose whether their video is on or off. Today I turned to my video off, but when you have staff meetings, a lot of people like to keep the video on because they just like to see each other. If you are the host, you should definitely keep your video on, particularly if you're the leader of the organization, because they want to see you. There's comfort in knowing that the leader is there and the leader is relaxed and still feeling like everything is going well. Make sure that everyone mutes themselves. This is very important whenever you are conducting, whether it's a team meeting, a customer meeting, or a client meeting. If you don't have control of the mute and of the video, it's almost always going to be someone who is unmuted, and you will hear all of the distractions of their home in the background. So when it's free, generally you might not have control over muting anyone. So that's something for you to consider. Have team members prepared to share. Again, this is what I mentioned previously about knowing your expectations and presenting those to your team members. Don't invite them to a meeting and then start asking them questions about a project that they're working on if you haven't asked them about it, if you haven't told them prior to the meeting, this is what's going to happen. Make sure that they know what you expect so that they can come prepared. And this also helps your meetings to go a lot more smoothly. When you start the meeting, set the tone. Remember, I said to you about setting the tone, whether it's going to be a formal meeting, whether it's going to be an informal meeting, and exactly what that looks like. Again, state your expectations. I expect everyone to give me an update about what they've been working on. You can expect from me to know what new information I have and what our plans are for moving forward, coming back into the workplace, or continuing to work remotely. Keep your meetings brief. I love the meetings I've had with the SBA. They can be 18 minutes. And you can have 10 people in a meeting and they all share and you hear what you need to hear and everyone's able to get back to work. And I value that, I really do. The host should share first and model their expectations, model the tone. So by that, I mean, by modeling simply what is indicated, You're going to show everyone, you're going to do an introduction. This is who I am. This is what I do. And I've been working on a project with veterans, helping veterans to transition to small business ownership. And I'm recommending B2B training for them. I'm connecting them with resources. I'm talking to them about PPP loans. Grants. I'm talking to them about the EIDL loan model. That's what I mean by model. Okay, so tools. This came up previously. I'll start with one of the tools that's up at the top. The one that you see that has the kind of little squiggly lines on it and the people down at the bottom, that's a virtual whiteboard. And the virtual whiteboard is an excellent collaborative tool. If you want to see, if you want people to see what you're working on and allow them to add to it in real time, the whiteboard tool is a really good tool for that. WebEx has it, GoToMeeting has it, and I believe Zoom has it, but I'm not certain about Zoom, but I know that the first two that I mentioned has this particular tool. So if your team needs to be able to work on something in real time, for example, if you're working on a particular design, you might want to use a whiteboard in order to do that. Or if you're thinking, you want to kind of think out loud about a project that you're working on and you want to do flow charts and different things of that nature, and you want everyone to just kind of draw at the same time. And this is excellent for engagement. Everyone absolutely loves the collaborative tool. So this is whiteboard. Chat, you've all learned how to use chat today because you've put your different questions in the chat that Sandy has been going through and sharing with me. Q&A, there's always a Q&A also. And how you can use Q&A effectively is if, for example, you're training, you run out of time and individuals have questions that they didn't get answered, then you can say, which is a really good way to get people's email addresses, is to say to them, just make sure that I have your email address and I will make sure that we get all of the questions answered. I will email answers to everybody so that everyone can get the benefit of seeing the answer to your question. And I think that's really great because in some sessions, they just run out of time and they don't have an opportunity to answer your questions. Polling captures feedback instantly. I hope that you can see that picture of poll results, but there's the question and then there are the different answers. And then this is actually the result. So this shows you the number of people who answered accordingly. And again, your participants really like to have this. And it's a great, great engagement tool. It's one of my favorites. And then of course, we've talked a lot about video. Okay, so now it's your turn. So I need to know from you, from what you have seen today, do you have an idea of who your audience is and what tool would be the best tool for you to use to engage your audience?
Do people want to respond in the chat area, or if anybody wants to share from what they've learned today, what tools they're currently using, or what tools they potentially want to use and may need a little help with in terms of WebEx, Zoom, or GoToMeeting?
So Zoom, WebEx, and GoToMeeting are the platforms. The tools are chat, video, whiteboard, which is the collaborative tool. Which tools would you like more information about? Which tools do you think that's the tool that I would like to use?
Hope, I have a question. Should people have a moderator or a facilitator when they're using these online platforms?
Sandy, I am so glad that you mentioned that because I did intend to mention that. Um, when you are having a large group, because most of the platforms allow you to have up to 150 people, and I definitely don't recommend that you have that many, particularly as you were just starting out. But even if you have 25 or more people, you definitely should have a moderator because that person will be able to go through the chat because generally people have some of the same questions. So that moderator is able to go through and ask the question one time instead of you trying to read through it. And you can pay attention to what you're doing and stay on track with what you're doing. So I definitely recommend a moderator.
And,
So
what are some qualities, I think, of your moderator, your facilitator? If people aren't used to having that type of individual, or if you're a small business, that person may not be on your team. So what would you recommend doing to go about finding the appropriate moderator or facilitator since you're going virtual with your meetings and presentations?
well, it should definitely be someone who has experience using the platforms because that person will also be the person that's helping individuals who are sending emails. I can't get in, I can't get in. How do I get in? It will be a person who has to know something about what you are covering in your training so that they know which questions are actually ones that they should be posing during that particular training because some people are going to ask questions that have nothing to do with what you are actually talking about, but the facilitator can talk to them about that offline. So it has to be a person, again, who's very knowledgeable, or relatively, I should say, relatively knowledgeable of the content, a person who can make good decisions about which questions to pass over and which questions to bring forward to the facilitator. They should know what's being covered in the training so that questions at the end of the training aren't coming up at the beginning, and that helps save time and make the whole process a lot more seamless.
Okay, can we ask people in the chat to maybe share with us what type of business you have? What industry are you in for your business?
I would appreciate that.
Okay, I see training, entertainment, sign company, education and mentoring, event planning, construction, technology,
Mentoring,
educational consulting. Mhm.
consulting. Okay, so there are some very great, all of the businesses have a wonderful potential to pivot and to use these various remote platforms to really reach out to customers. And I hope that you can see that. Let me give you an example of, for example, a person who has an exercise studio, because of course all of those were shut down. So what have they done? They have gone online and they are allowing clients to be able to connect with them, and they are coaching them individually, and they are also coaching groups. So one of the things that's a very good idea to do, if you think to yourself, I can't figure this out, close your eyes, and think about how are people going to find you in this current environment? And how can you reach out to them in this current environment when you can't come face to face with them. That's what this presentation has been all about. So I'm interested, the person in the construction field, I would like to ask you specifically a question. Do you see these tools, these rather platforms that we've presented as being helpful to your business? Yes or no? And if so, what do you see as a way that you can still operate your business using one of the platforms? And I will open it up to anyone as well.
Well, Hope, I see an event planning business. What
Okay.
can an event planning business do now during the pandemic in terms of their services and using some of these online meeting platforms?
Okay, again, with your business, you would need to help individuals understand. You said event planning, right? I want to make sure.
One of the businesses listed was event planning.
Okay, so you have to help people understand, for example, how do I throw a birthday party remotely? So you have to get that picture in your head. And that's one of the things that I do with businesses. I help them to think through what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And we come up with a way that they can still conduct their business remotely. So lots of event planners are pivoting during this time, and they are using the remote tools, the remote platforms to be able to do that. Think again about what I said about having the socials. We've done socials with WebEx, we've done socials with Zoom, and we've done socials with GoToMeeting. So you just need to think about what is it that my particular client wants to see happen during this time, because it's an experience. You're giving them an experience. And one of the things that you might want to look at to give yourself some ideas would be some of the tour companies, for example, where people are able to take virtual vacations so that you can begin to get some ideas of what people will want to see to be engaging. And this for the person with the entertainment company as well. You want to begin to look at that. So that's why I said, look at some of your competitors and see what they're doing, and definitely connect with someone who is the business strategist who can help you to begin to figure out, how can I use these platforms to be able to engage my clients?
Okay, and another business has a sign company. What platform might they use for reaching their customers or clients in terms of Zoom, WebEx, or GoToMeeting?
Okay, I need some more information about the sign company. Are you talking about the types of signs that you see on commercial buildings? Are you talking about, what kind of signs are you talking about?
Okay, can the sign company provide us some more information in the chat? Okay, they haven't provided, let's see, yes, they said all types. They focus on property management companies.
Okay, so they provide signage for property management companies. Okay, so I will just I will say that this person, say for example that this person does not have any means of doesn't have any emails from previous clients. So I would suggest to them that they reach out to property management companies and offer them a free training of how they can get signage now and the kind of signage that they provide. So think back to the sales pitch part of this. Now, the sales pitch was not for specifically for signage, but that's fine because you're still selling. You're doing a sales pitch to your clients. So if you provide, because real estate agents, some of them are still trying to figure out, for example, how are they going to get people to purchase houses? So what did they do? They started doing virtual tours. So I would recommend that the sign person use Zoom, for example. First, get the contact information for their target audience. He or she mentioned real estate companies, management companies. Get the information for them. Let them know that you are providing a free webinar and what information you are providing for them. During that webinar, you can show them what you provide in terms of signs, your turnaround time for the signs, and you can give them a reduction in their signage just for participating in the webinar. So I would suggest Zoom and contact the individuals, send them the link, set up for that, and keep their information, keep their email information, keep their names, and continue to send them information that will be helpful to them, even information that may not be directly attached to the service that you are offering, but become a resource for them, the go-to person for them.
Okay, they are asking if they did a webinar, how long should the webinar be for those customers?
Okay, so if this is still the person that is
Yeah.
the property management, okay, the webinar should be, again, no more than 45 minutes. 35 minutes would be optimal to make sure that everyone stays engaged, and make sure that you give them something that's going to keep them to the end. There was something else that they asked, Sandy, that I think I missed.
Okay, they just said how long should the webinar be? Now, someone else is asking a question in terms of the different platforms, WebEx, Zoom, and GoToMeeting. Who do you find has the best customer service?
That is such a good question. Now, see, I don't know that I could definitely answer that well, because even though I don't receive any kind of payment from any of them, but I work with sales. I have a sales rep with each of them, so that whenever I have clients, I can make a recommendation to that sales rep to work with them. And they know that they are to respond to the people that I send to them, because I do a lot of business, send a lot of business their way. So the people that I work with, the customer service has been very great. Now, right now, it can be very challenging to get any of the reps on the phone, because Zoom in particular was really inundated because everybody heard about Zoom. Now, Zoom does not, they have video training, but it's not really a platform where you can call and ask questions or send in your questions and get a rapid response. And that's not hugely an issue because it is a very easy platform to use. But you really have to be able to kind of figure it out for yourself. And it is relatively easy to figure out. Probably the hardest part of Zoom is probably figuring out the side by side, your slides on one side and your picture on the other. WebEx is very good about responding to customer questions, and that's because they usually have larger customers than Zoom and GoToMeeting. So they want to keep those large accounts. So they're usually very good about responding to customers. And GoToMeeting, I haven't had the best experience with GoToMeeting and being responsive. I haven't, but the client that I have that works with them has found his process to be very seamless with them. So I think it pretty much comes down to developing that relationship with your rep, and your rep really going down the hall or giving a call out to someone and saying, look, this customer that I sent to you has been trying to get someone on the phone and they can't get anyone on the phone. That's the kind of relationship that you want to have, so that when you have questions, you get them answered very quickly.
Hope, in terms of sending information in advance or getting information to your participants for an online meeting, how soon should you get information to them, or what type of information? You kind of highlighted it on your slide in terms of the planning.
How far in advance? You should let them know that it's coming up at least a week in advance, and you should send them another reminder 2 days before the event, and definitely the day of the event. And you make the recommendation that they add it to their calendars so that they get automatic reminders as well.
Okay, there's a question in the Q&A section, I guess, or comment. Somebody's opening up a group home for the disabled, and I guess they're not certain if they want to host a virtual meeting, what to do for their type of business.
Okay, so they would be reaching out to the family members, for example, and now is a good time to do that. You have to think about what tools you plan to use in your presentation. You would definitely want to use polling to find out what, for example, are the concerns that families have right now, what families are currently doing. You would be able to use polling to be able to get that kind of data, but you would just reach out to the families, letting them know what it is that you offer, and will you be able to actually have individuals on site or not, or when, what your plans are going forward, and just to tell people about your program, what it is that you're going to be offering. If you currently have the facility, a video showing the facility, showing, for example, how clean it is, showing different programs that you plan to offer, and definitely let them know what kind of training the individuals that are going to be on your staff have, because obviously that's going to be essential if you're working with something with a population that has disabilities. So I would say host a webinar, let them know, first contact the different families, let them know that you are hosting this virtual webinar, make sure that they can ask questions and that you provide answers, take them to your website, make sure, like I said, take them on a tour of that facility, show them why you are the best place for their loved one to be.
Thank you for that response.
I actually do educational consulting. Is the educational person still on the line? And mentoring too. Are they still there? Because I'd be interested to find out what you are doing right now.
Okay, I'm looking to see if they're responding back. They asked about, the educational consulting person said they use Zoom.
Okay.
They do Zoom boot camps. And then another educational consulting company said they use Zoom boot camps every Saturday on leadership. And another one stated they send out invites and consult for 1 hour.
Excellent.
So are people, so is that another way, I guess, to use these online meeting platforms is to do your online consulting one-on-ones with individuals?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we're doing with SBA right now so that we can counsel people, and also with mentoring. Also, it's the only way right now that you can safely still engage with people and get them the information that they need to have. So yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But great job, the boot camps. That's absolutely wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad that you're moving along with Zoom, and that you hopefully that you are using the various tools. And I want to reiterate, take advantage of the free time to use the various platforms. Play around with them, figure out what works for you. Get together with your brother or sister or your partner in business and host a meeting and figure out what the different things do and how they like them. Practice using the polling. You should definitely practice before getting together with your clients or your customers or even your team. You should practice using the different tools. But it sounds like some of you have actually started putting some things in place. I'm really very, very, very happy to hear that. Very happy to hear that. So some of you who have not used any of the platforms previously, what tools, based on this training today, what tools will you use? Are you interested in using chat? Are you interested in using video? Are you interested in using polling? Or if a combination, indicate the combination that you would be interested in using. So chat is really your way of letting the people who are participating ask you questions. And again, for that person that you get to ask the questions on their behalf, that's what you really use chat for, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So if someone, for example, can't hear you, sometimes in sessions, everyone's like, sometimes people are talking for 5 minutes and they don't realize that they're muted. Well, if you look at your chat, someone has told you, we can't hear you, or they ask a question of some other sort. And video, of course, is the best way for people to remember your particular message. And polling is a way of bringing people together because they want to see who's thinking like I'm thinking. And it also helps you to gain important information for data gathering for your business. So if there aren't any other questions, any more help, I actually wanted this to be an opportunity where I could go back and forth with some of the small business owners to actually work through a plan with them. But you can always contact me offline to do that. So I just want to tell you all, you can do this. You already are. You have been successful to this point, and you're going to continue to be successful. Operating at a distance is not the downfall of your business. You are going to come out of this even better than you expected. one of the benefits, I think, of this virus is that it's leveling the playing field for businesses. So it is allowing individuals who can be the most creative, who can make use of these various platforms creatively. It gives you an opportunity to be more competitive with your business. Just think creatively, be very courageous, and don't mind doing something that's different than you expected. If you find that you want to talk one-on-one, to have a consultation one-on-one, to learn how to better integrate any of these platforms and tools that we talked about into your business, you can definitely email me. My email is there. My name is Hope, and more than happy to work together with you to have the best possible outcome for your business. I want to thank you all for your attention. If there are any other questions, I'm more than happy to take them. If you think of any after we get off, like I said, feel free to email me. More than happy to assist you. Thanks so much.
Well, Hope, this is Deborah Carter, and on behalf of our team and our featured guest as well, along with Sandy from People for Change, we want to thank you for being the presenter today. You're certainly a wealth of knowledge in this space with providing information on online meeting platforms, especially in the midst of COVID-19. Many small businesses had to quickly pivot to communicating virtually. So this has been extremely helpful and very valuable. And we want to thank you, and thank you for providing your follow-up information. I had a question in terms of your PowerPoint presentation. I'm sure a number of the small businesses that are participants would like to know if this is going to be made available to them, or could it be made available to them?
Deborah, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate what you've said, and I greatly appreciate this opportunity. I will definitely leave that in the hands of Sandy. I definitely do not mind sharing it.
Well, thank you for that. And we hope that we see you again on another valuable and fundamentally good content of information for the small business community. And in addition to that, I wanted to mention to those participants, you will be receiving a survey, and they help us to know the kinds of information that you are seeking and that you would be interested in hearing more about. And we would appreciate if you would follow up as expeditiously as possible, as Chris Kelly, our Director of Outreach, will be sending those out to you by email. And meanwhile, thank you again, Sandy, and for facilitating. And meanwhile, everybody please stay safe. And we have our next webinar as part of our series on this coming Thursday. And we hope that everybody that's involved will be engaged again on this coming Thursday. It's in the evening, and sometimes the presenters, that's the best availability for them, but please don't miss out. We look forward to seeing you. And then Sandy has just posted the next 3 webinars that are forthcoming. So thank you again. Thank you to Jerry McLaurin, and we look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Deborah, thanks again, and we look forward to the upcoming workshops. Everybody stay safe. Thank you.